Oh, good morning. I just thought I'd check in today. Now, there's a couple of things. I have a job. Um, it's a job audition essentially today. So I'm gonna check in in about an hour, so I can be early. Got up at like 4:30, so a little adjustment, but that's actually the time approximately where I aim to get up, somewhere between 4:30 and 5:45, let's say. Um, and my favorite season is coming up, fall, so it's incredible. I love it. It's good to work. It's good for me to work. Um, my job isn't giving me enough hours, so I need a second job. I didn't think I would be in that position. I thought I'd have, perhaps naively, but I thought I'd have full time work. Um, by the time I by the time I got a more conventional job. Um, but it's not really how the world works. So that's okay. I've noticed something that there's a segment of the population that um, seems to consider politics to be the most important aspect of their identity. At least that's what they talk about the most. Um, and they're not not professional political commentators or um, someone who makes a living off of that. So at least the vast majority of them are not. So I don't know. I think it's just about being right with these people. It doesn't really matter about their political objectives or agenda, who they support, who they don't support, or oppose rather. I think it's just that these people want to be right, and they want a virtue signal to their in crowd. And that's regardless of political stripe, by the way. I'm not picking on one or the other. It's just I've noticed it with every election. There's a segment of people who believe that um, the opposition party person is the antichrist or equivalent. Um, that America is doomed if we can't survive 4 more years of this person, whatever, or another Dem, another Republican, etc. And they're always wrong. Maybe certain people damage certain agendas. Maybe they're not even good for the country, but they don't have enough power um, to um, to steer a trajectory enough. From what I've seen. And oh yes, I have been to multiple churches where they people would get up and they would sincerely s- say something to the effect of the Democratic candidate, they would name him, it may be the Antichrist, or I don't know that he's not the Antichrist. It's very binary with some religious people. They think that the Democrat equals non-Christian, Republican equals Christian. I find that bizarre, but that's what they believe. Some of them. Um, yeah, I don't share that belief, but it's kind of a moot point. The ones who respect the separation of church and state, um, they're the ones I think who believe in the sanctity of government, broadly speaking, and those who don't. They want some kind of theocracy. They want some kind of or populism. Um, they want to be a cult leader. They are a cult leader, or in effect, that sort of thing. And that aspect is somewhat of a um, it's a little bit more party specific. There are more religious populist cult leader types on the right, and, but on the left, there's different types of cultism, which is just as dangerous. So it may be more obvious in many ways on the right, but it's actually if you look at things, um, it's just as bad on the left, I would say. There's people who have well, cults come in in different sizes and different types. So there's ideological cults. Some of them are from popular religions, or broadly speaking, from them. Others are simply get with our agenda, stay with it, or you'll be punished, essentially. Which is what we see on the left a lot of times. The right wing ones, they tend to be a little more. Um, you must support dear leader at all costs because he can save us. And it's overt and it's religious overtones and et cetera, et cetera. It's very, very dangerous to follow a charismatic leader. Doesn't matter if they're good, doesn't matter if they're effective. The the crowd's large enough, it can take on a life of its own, and well, it gets out of control. A movement gets out of control. We see this, of course, in the Dune novels. And I mentioned that because now they're a major motion picture, and I believe Messiah is in the works. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But we see this playing out in real life, um, all around us. My objection has always been that people do not have the tools usually to take control of their lives. So we need to. I think any successful movement needs to first of all give people those tools, not direct resources, but remove the barriers locally, statewide, county, and federally, um, to success. And not talking about everyone being a millionaire or anything like that. I'm talking about um, what I consider American's birthright, which is to um, which is to be able to be prosperous, and retire with a pension and live in a safe environment. Now we come from all over the place. My image of American, it's a bit very. When I actually think about it, it's like a number of a number of a number of words come to my mind, and all of them mean American rather. Um, Melting pot would be a good example. Um, and citizen or no, I don't consider someone to be a fellow citizen in any real sense if they don't integrate into our nation. I mean, we have all sorts of cultures here. We have, I think, virtually all cultures that exist in one community or another here. Um, so, yeah, integrate. It doesn't necessarily mean become homogenous, but it means you interact with other people. There has to be some language, some communication ability. Um, Gainful employment. What else? Well, not necessarily gainful employment, but certainly being active in the community, just in one way or another. Just participating in one way or another. Follow the laws. And that's one of the things that really concerns me. I don't think that America is doing as good a job, broadly speaking, with enforcing the law as they should. I think we need to desperately we need to reduce the number of laws that we have and enforce the ones that are on the books. You need to do both. You can't do one or the other. People don't understand. A lot of times concepts or movements or initiatives need to have a counterpart. For example, bringing back to the charismatic leader, that's the tip of the spear for an upswelling of human belief, initiative, will, if you and they direct it. But they need administrators. A movement will fail without administrators because you need to process the will of the masses into something constructive. When I say people need leaders, I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean that they need people to harness their unconscious desires into something tangible. And in the purest demonstration of direct democracy, give them what they desire. Not necessarily what they want individually, but what the masses desire, which is mostly to be happy. And that also sets the politicians apart from everyone else because politicians don't generally desire to be happy. They desire power, which is why they can't be trusted, but they must be trusted in order to move their communities forward. It's a paradox. So, you can't simply say that politicians shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, or they shouldn't have so much power. If they have less power, then the people who they represent, in one way or another, have less power, and that's why the presidency keeps on getting more powerful. It's unfortunate. I want to see institutions strengthened, and I want to see alternatives. I want the executive branch to have, well, I wanted to, I want there to be more. It'd be nice to see perhaps a fourth branch of government. Um, Now, the way I've envisioned that is that it would be a gradual process, but that there would be an additional House of Congress called the House of Commerce. This would help with a lot of the corruption issues. Lobbyists could and should approach these people in my proposed system or my hypothetical system. Um, they would approach representatives of the House of Commerce, and they would be responsible for, well, commerce. Um, Obviously, they would also consult with and talk with normal legislators in the other in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, but the people they would be working with and giving campaign contributions to directly would be the House of Commerce, because they are the representatives of, well, our commerce. Um, yes, they would also. I want federal resource districts in a formalized way, maybe perhaps 12, um, covering the entire United States. Um, yeah, the breadbasket would probably be divided in three at least, um, and that would be these people would be the directors would be in charge of purchasing resources on a federal level in a very organized manner. Um, what else? We need to radically reform our military-industrial complex. We have enormous vulnerabilities there to foreign powers. Um, it's our most obvious security flaw in many ways. There's many others. Um, and we need to have people lose citizenship more easily if they well, if they want to lose citizenship, make it an easy process. If they it could be a slippery slope, and I know people get worried about that. um I think we need to have a conversation about what it means to be an American. And uh, well, you have to be very broad, and it would need to be entered into with the understanding that that's a living concept. It's not a stagnant thing, and we have to. Well, anyways, yeah, it's a pretty broad conversation, but I think it's worth having. And it is going on now, of course, but it's not like it's not like we're just having one conversation on some debate stage. It happens all over, where people talk to one another, they exchange values. Yeah, a lot of times communication isn't it's not um, direct. We reference information packages essentially. Our very belief systems. It's referencing a whole um, bundle of information, and we're communicating how we feel about that, and looking for someone who really sympathizes with that belief system, if not shares it. So it's important to acknowledge that and get used to that, because a lot of times people, they take the words as a direct attack on their belief system when it's not. People may disagree with one's presentation. They don't necessarily disagree with your belief system. I think that's something that we need to get more used to here in America. And also, we're a very young nation, and we can be arrogant and overwrought. Any nation can be arrogant and overwrought, but many of them are not so young. We need to not be belligerent. Um, and yeah, I think we need to be more decisive at the same time. It goes back to what I said about enforcing the law. If laws aren't enforced, it erodes the fabric of society. If laws are unjust, it erodes the fabric of society even more, which is why I generally like to have fewer laws, and especially fewer regulations. We need to rein in partial government organizations and non-government organizations. They have, well, undue influence in some cases, and a lot of times people look too much to the government, especially bureaucrats, to do things that they're not suited for. And we need to address that, I think. Anyways, you know, politics is only one aspect of philosophy, and it is philosophy, by the way. People think it's something different. It really isn't. This often what I ultimately do in one way or another is when people are talking about a concept, or when I'm talking about a concept, and they're like, oh no, it's like, I walk them through it a little bit, and then they, I see them thinking, and that's wonderful. And I love it when I get to think too. It's like, I didn't think of that, or that's an interesting perspective, or something. It's wonderful. There's no ego involvement for me. Maybe a little bit about my opinions, but I am willing to change my opinions in the light of different information, or even a different perspective. But um, yeah, basically, a screaming match isn't going to do anything. That just means that the other person isn't willing to engage. They wanna scream for the most part. Anyways, that's something that needs to be addressed in civil discourse as well. You see, civility is the main component of civilization. When people don't realize that, but if you think about it just a little bit, um, yes, because we have to work with one another in order to get things accomplished, in order for things not to fall apart. So, civility. Um, yes, and then all the fruits that follow from that. Um, because civility is the practice of respect, and respect, when practiced, leads to a lot of other really great things that are generally associated with civilization. Because if we respect somebody else, we will help them when they're in need. Because if nothing else, they will help us when we are in need. Because they're practicing this too, and it goes back and forth, and it has wonderful repercussions. Now, anyways, I think there's good reason why people say sometimes have a oneness epiphany, if you will, because it's not so much an intellectual thing; it's something that's experienced. How everything's connected. Well, yes. Um, how is the question? The mystery. It's not a mystery to be explored so much, but an experience to be lived, as they say. So it's like with certain practices, some of the thought exercise, or not thought exercise, some of the tasks are not mysteries to be solved. They're not an intellectual exercise. There's something to be experienced. As I understand it, Zen um, broadly does that, and it's something I would like to explore myself. It's interesting because normally it's about escaping, rising above problems, or engaging with the problems one way or another. That those are two broad spiritual approaches. Um, yeah, like I'd say Buddhism is the rising above the problems, broadly speaking. There's other things about it too, but um, and Stoicism as well, which is why I consider myself a Buddhist Stoic, something like that, at least on a practical level. And then on the other ones, it's more conventional. Um, yeah, there's more conventional religions, like Christianity, that it's a way through problems. It's a way to survive and thrive in life. Um, yes. They tend to be more detailed about how, which has its advantages and disadvantages. So, anyways, yeah, there's some things I was thinking about.